My name is Nicole Madiation. I'm the Executive Director of On-Screen Manitoba.
My name is Yenny Trin, and I'm the President of the Asian Heritage Society of Manitoba.
Hey, I'm John, and this is James, and we're from Red Rover Entertainment.
I'm Rachel Grusin. On behalf of all of us at Manitoba Film and Music, I want to take this opportunity and offer my congratulations to the FascinAsian Film Festival in its inaugural year.
Hi everyone, I'm Deanna Wong, Executive Director of the Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. Congratulations on your inaugural FascinAsian Film Festival.
I'm Susan Hansen, Festival Director of the Vancouver Asian Film Festival. On behalf of the Vancouver Asian Film Festival, I wanted to express our heartfelt congratulations on the launch of FascinAsian Film Festival.
Hi, I'm Chris Fajner from the National Screen Institute. We are so proud and excited to be a part of the very first FascinAsian Film Festival. Congratulations to the whole team.
On behalf of the whole team here at On-Screen Manitoba, congratulations to FascinAsian on your first year.
We're so excited to be a part of the festival as a sponsor, and a big congratulations to all of the members of the team who are putting the show together.
Our society is very proud to be a partner and sponsor of the festival, so congratulations.
Hello! Hello everyone! Welcome to the first annual FascinAsian Film Festival. My name is Stephanie Tsai. Before we begin anything, the FascinAsian Film Festival and I want to acknowledge that we live and we work and create our art in the territories of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Dakota, Dene, and Oji Cree nations and the heartland of the Métis people. Treaty 1, signed in 1871, took this territory from 7 local Anishinaabe First Nations, and we truly thank the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities that have cared for Turtle Island since the very beginning. And with this acknowledgement, we remind ourselves of discriminatory, racist, and colonial practices that have and continue to create barriers for Indigenous peoples and communities across Turtle Island. So this land acknowledgement is just a very, very tiny, tiny step that we can make towards reconciliation on an individual level. And with that, we are so grateful to all the Indigenous peoples, signed and unsigned, who are here on Treaty 1 territory. We are so pleased to be celebrating Asian Heritage this month by sharing the stories of Asian Canadians here in Manitoba and across the country. But especially proud today to be talking to the co-writer and director of the movie Queen of the Morning Calm, Gloria Young Kim. Now, Gloria, born in Seoul, Korea, Gloria Young Kim is an alumni of the Canadian Film Center's Directors Lab, TIFF Talent Lab, and NSI. Her first feature, Queen of the Morning Calm, won the Women in the Director's Chair Feature Film Award, the William F. White Real Canadian Indie, the GDC Ontario Best Director Award, Special Jury Best Breakthrough Performance Award at the Canadian Film Festival, and Best Director Award at Cinefam. She has won numerous golds for her commercials and is the recipient of the Chorus Fearless Female Filmmaker Award and one of Women in View's 5 in Focus 2017, and has directed multiple episodes of television, most recently for the hit series Coroner on CBC and MOW for Lifetime, and is on the board of Women in Film and Television Toronto. Please help me welcome Gloria.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm so good and so excited. How are you doing, Gloria?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm excited to see you too.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us. That is a bio. Oh my goodness, so wonderfully accomplished and so many well-deserved acclamations. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and to you too, because you just recently won an award, right? From ACTRA Manitoba. Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that we should get right into it because an hour or 45 minutes to an hour can fly by really quickly. So we'll just jump right into it. So my first question is in Asian culture, it's pretty common narrative that the subject of sex isn't discussed openly or very warmly welcomed. I was just wondering if you could speak about your exploration of the character Mona and her exposure to sexuality and sex at a very young age.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because I guess what I was trying to sort of noodle and explore on, from my own point of view was just my own kind of like very nascent discovery of sex and sexuality and sensuality when I was a child. And I mean, I wasn't exposed to it in that way at all, but I remember when I was a kid, my dad went to work in the States, and he had found a place to live with a Korean woman and her daughter. And I had heard from my mom, I just kind of eavesdropping, that she wasn't going to charge my dad rent. And my mother was like, we are going down there right now. And I was like, but why, Mom? Isn't that a good thing that he's not being charged rent? That's great. And so we went down there, and she was a perfectly nice person. But, I think I was like 11, and I was like, I kind of didn't really understand, but I started to intimate that somehow this had something to do with sex. And this single mother was looking for her, I guess, a protector, right? She had come here, she had hooked up with an American Army guy, and then I guess they had split up, and so she was looking for her next protector. And I was like, oh, it was just something that I was just starting to understand and kind of come into. And so for me, it was like a story that kind of never left me. And I just thought, what would it be like to be that kid who would have to be exposed to, like, if your parent is vulnerable, if your mother is vulnerable, if there are things that she has to do to survive, what would that life be like for that child? And so that was what I was trying to explore when I started writing about Mona and what she was going through. And I was really fascinated by this notion of exploring the subject of women being for sale. I think, women's sexuality and sensuality and their bodies are such a commodity. And it just was something I really wanted to look at. And particularly Asian women are so commodified and sexualized that I thought it would be interesting to look at the character as someone who was a sex worker, who was selling sex. That was her commodity. And that's where that whole thing started happening, around looking at, sexuality and childhood and, that mother-daughter relationship.
Yeah. It's interesting how the things stick with you when you're a kid, and how much they stick with you when you don't have the outlet to talk about it either.
Yeah, totally. It was just it just made me really see how, when you're vulnerable like that, when you're a vulnerable woman, like not having the power to, have different kinds of choices. And yeah, like it was for me, it was just something I really needed to look at and talk about, and not judge, because I just thought, particularly in that time, I think, women were more vulnerable. And she was a woman who English wasn't her first language, and being a single mother, and who knew if her ex-partner was giving her any kind of support, because I don't think the child was his. And so it was something that I really thought, I really want to look at this story.
Do you remember what happened afterwards?
Well, I mean, in my family story, my mother just moved him out and found him another place.
Yeah, okay.
Which I totally don't blame her for doing.
No, of course, absolutely. And then, that's something that your mother had to do, right?
Yeah, she was keeping her family intact.
Yeah, exactly.
The best way that she knew how. It wasn't her job to take care of this other woman, but I just never forgot her.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that kind of, this kind of transitions us to the next question that I have about Deborah. And, this movie has been out for over a year now. And I'm sure you've had multiple conversations about the movie. And so I'm just interested to hear what this answer is now, that a lot in the world has happened. And anyway, so my question is, Deborah is a very multi-layered, three-dimensional character with so much depth. And she also has characteristics of some very common tropes, like the lotus flower in her diminutive, like submissive ways with Sarge, and the dragon lady demeanor as a mother, and this exotic, over-sexualized Asian dancer and sex worker. And I would just love to hear your thoughts on how you navigated through the balance between acknowledging these stereotypes of Asian women and then while working against them and not letting this character be defined by those tropes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I thought, I think this is the interesting thing, is that because there's not a lot of stories about Asian people in this culture, in the dominant culture, when you look at an Asian person, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see Lotus Blossom. You're going to see Dragon Lady. You're going to see, that kind of thing. And so for me, it was like, I knew that I had to, talk about this woman. I wanted to talk about, because, we are everything, right? Like, we as Asian women, we're everything. We can be fierce, we can be sexual, we can be, cute, we can be, demure, but we can also be assholes, right? Yeah. Gamut of things. And I think the thing about the stereotype is that that's the lens that the dominant culture has put on Asian women, and that's not who we are. That's not truly who we are. That's the trope that's been used in stories that are not our stories, right? Where these women are just bit characters who play that sort of role. And so I just wanted to talk about a woman who was sexual, who was a woman who lived with cycles of violence, who was a woman who, was as much a victim of the like romance myth as any woman is a victim of the romance myth, right? Who was a survivor, and who was also using her sexuality, and she just also happened to be Asian, right? So that was what I was trying to do. I wanted to talk about all of these things. I didn't want to avoid any of these topics. I really wanted to tackle all of these topics. And and I did think about it, because when you write a character like this and you make a decision to make that character a sex worker, that you're taking on that whole trope. You're taking on the history of the horrible films with Asian women being represented in that way, and all of the wars that all of the Americans and like the West has wreaked havoc on Asian soil, to have those kinds of stereotypes about Asian women. But I just thought it's just so important to tackle this and to look at this and look at it through my lens, through my point of view, through what I know as an Asian woman, and through what I know as a survivor of violence, so that I can tell a complete story about a character who is a complete character, and hopefully start to change those conceptions and really, get people to see these characters as real and human and full, and be interested in seeing more stories like this. So that was what I was attempting to do when I went in that direction.
Yeah, and it's courageous, because I know how much work it is. It's a lot harder to go into the dangerous path, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I did really feel that Deborah was such a full person.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so lovely to see an Asian woman in the cinema, just multi-layered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, just an additional part of this, what I really loved about the movie, so I'm just going to gush a bit too, is the fact that there is this trope about the white savior in the movie, and I just loved so much that it didn't end with a white man saving an Asian woman, which is so much a part of the narrative of past representation. It's like so common. And
or just men saving women in general.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's like such a thing. It's such a I mean, it's such a foundational myth. You go to Disney World and Mickey and Minnie and Donald and Daisy and the prince and Cinderella, and they all come dancing and they all say dreams come true, and the dream is like romantic love and that's salvation. And so it's foundational. It's almost impossible. I have a daughter, and choosing what to read to her, it's like you can't even read the fairy tales, without encountering that myth. It's so pervasive. And I really didn't want to tell that story. It was definitely not a direction I wanted to go, because it's a myth.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. So were there things that were helpful to you to like rules or boundaries that you gave yourself to make sure you didn't go in that direction when you were developing the piece?
No, I didn't tell myself I couldn't do anything. I let myself, it was a long time in development where I was trying to figure out the story. And the ending of the story, to be perfectly honest, I wrote, like, there was a 6-month period when I was just writing. And that was the ending that kind of poured out of me. And I was like, oh, okay, this is the ending. But I did let myself try different endings. I just thought it would be good to, I think that if you don't allow yourself the freedom to just try anything and try everything, I like to say, to go down the rabbit hole, it's just that once you start saying, no, I can't do this or I can't do that, then you're putting your editing hat on. And then when you're in editing brain, that's like a different brain than the creating brain. And it's I think then it can stop you from really finding interesting things. So I just feel like, when you're writing, I think you have to not be an editing brain in the beginning. You have to really let yourself explore. That's hard. I won't lie. That's really hard, because I think most of us go to the editing side of our brain, because that side is it's easy to be the critic.
Yeah.
Right? And most of us have grown up with some kind of a critical voice, external critical voice that becomes internal. So, yeah.
Balance between, what's going to be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think that I mean, it was just something that I could feel in my body that I didn't want to do. And I did try writing a version where, something like that happened. And I was like, yeah, this is not the story. And I knew it wasn't the story. That was like a version that never saw the light of day.
Good. Is there something that happens to you when you know it's right?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of feel it. I think, I mean, to me, I'm very instinctual, like I learn the rules and then I just leave the rules to the side. I try not to be one of those people who, because I know there are some people who, they get whatever writing system that, whether it's Sid Field or, Save the Cat or whatever, and then they try to like write to every single one of those rules. But I just, and it's not that I don't believe in structure. I really do believe in structure. I think, well, particularly in Western storytelling, there's a kind of very expected structure that that is really different from storytelling in the rest of the world. I would say, but I, it's a pretty satisfying structure, and so I think it's important to learn it. But I think, I think you have to just kind of go, okay, and then just instinctually go with it, and then you just, I don't know, to me it's like you feel it in your body. But sometimes that can be confusing, right? Sometimes I don't know, does this work? I don't know if you can do a table read. Like a table read is really helpful, and or good notes. Like if you have a trusted person who gives good notes, who knows how to read your work, I think it's really helpful when it's like just somebody who's really sensitive, right? Does a little bit of writing on their own as well.
Yeah.
What was really helpful?
Yeah, how you speak about like knowing the rules, and so you're able to break them as well.
Yeah, like I think that the rules can be broken successfully. I like, and then they can be broken unsuccessfully, but
It also, I feel like, allows space for different kinds of storytelling to take place, right? So it's like you said, the Western way of doing things is very different from every other place, and so to get another voice out there telling a story in a different structure, a different way, is just a form of storytelling.
Yeah. Like I've noticed with a lot of Asian films, like you have a really long third act, right? The third act is really, 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 really long. It's like an insanely long denouement kind of thing, right? It's like, I've come to expect it more now when I watch Asian.
Do you have any idea why that is?
I think they don't do the same kind of three act structure that we do in the West, right? Like, I think it's not the same. I don't know. I think people maybe have an appetite to watch,
right.
Films that go longer in that way, right? So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so my next question is a big question. So we can just kind of, slowly walk through it. But like I said, your movie has come out. It came out in December of 2019, and so a lot has happened since then. And a lot of you've had a lot of conversations about your film since then. And so I just wanted to ask you, with the rise of anti-Asian hate crimes, and more specifically the Atlanta murders that just happened, can you speak about how things have changed for you as a female Asian filmmaker?
I mean, for me, like, yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Like what's been happening, and just the inflammation of racism and like, yeah, it's so weird.
It's a big question. And I know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I always, as a filmmaker, it's just always been like I am a survivor of violence. I think I don't want to generalize, but I think a lot of people who come from different cultures might come from backgrounds of violence, or if you come from a culture where there's been a lot of war, you know, that gets passed on, that trauma gets passed on, and violent behaviors get passed on because you're living in crisis and you're living in around violence. And so for me, it was, you know, as a filmmaker, there's a lot of like just wanting to honor that story and honor that truth and speak to that truth and speak to that story. I think that that's become, you know, even more urgent than it was before, you know, because we're in an industry where everybody really wants to make a living.
Yeah.
And, you know, people have been uncomfortable with these kinds of stories. You know, the establishment is uncomfortable with these kinds of stories. But we're at this time now where, you know, we have to speak about this kind of stuff, right? We have to lift the veil and stop pretending that, you know, problems don't exist, or that, you know, we're so on top of it, because we're so clearly not. And I'm very hopeful for change and transformation. I'm a very big believer in change and transformation. I really know that it can happen and that it's possible, but I really also think that in some ways we're really just starting.
Yeah.
You know, and like, that's a huge thing. I think that we really need to keep making the change happen and not get complacent. And, you know, like, there's a worry, I think, that this could be a trend or a fad, diversity as a trend or a diversity as a fad, where this could disappear next year. And I think that we can't let that happen, for sure. That just is not, you know, it's just not even something that I think we should even entertain. So I think that we just have to, and I think particularly we just have to learn to be a little bit more vocal, maybe, right? I mean, I think there's been people who've spoken up always, but now we're finally getting, you know, attention paid to us, right? And unfortunately, it just takes so much strife for that to happen, and violence for that to happen. You know, like, I mean, how much violence had to happen? How many lives had to be taken before people took Black Lives Matters seriously? You know, like, just seeing report after report after report, and no one taking it seriously, you know, until this last year, right? So, and thank God people are finally paying attention to that, right? Like, these are all issues that are, I think, crucial, you know? So I do think that the time for complacency is over, and that it's so important for us to just tell our stories.
I agree, and tell our stories in like, to have courage to tell them in the most authentic way, right? Because I think so much of our stories have been told in a very digestible way, or there's a proximity to whiteness that we have to abide to, so that be seen and heard and be watched. Because if we're not in this box or structure of how they see us, then then it's not popular. Or you and I had talked about too, like feeling as if there's only room for one Asian piece or one Asian,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
like granting bodies go. It's like
Uh,
kind of plotting here because they went with an Asian story last year or whatever.
yeah. Oh my gosh, when I first started pitching Queen of the Morning Calm, I remember one funder saying, "But we've already told an Asian story," and they meant Double Happiness, which was in the 90s. Which is a wonderful film, a seminal film as far as I'm concerned. Mina Shum's, I think it was her first feature, and it was so wonderful. But like that was the early 90s. Like my God, and it was like, I don't know, 2012 or something when I was pitching this.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's awful. That's just awful.
Yeah, but that was the prevailing norm, right? Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely.
You
have to be so overtly your culture as well that you have to represent your entire race or your entire gender, and you can't just be a person. Why again, I love Deborah so much because, like you said, you could put any race in that role, and it would obviously be incredibly different, and you're bringing all of that person into this role. And I look forward to the days where we're making films and they aren't so culturally based, that you can write, an Asian woman can write a story about just a woman going about her life.
Yeah, like that's how we live our lives, right? Like for us, that's our culture and our upbringing. Like it informs, choices and decisions and this and that and the other. But we're not discussing it. I mean, we're discussing it now.
Yes, of course.
But like we live our lives. We live our lives. We have our friends. We have our dreams. We have our kids and you go about your thing and you try your best and but at the same time for me I knew that just having her backstory and just the phone call she has with her mom is so crucial to show her backstory and show a little bit of who she is and the story that she tells. Like the confession she makes about her life. I thought that was like a really, like, to me that felt very Korean, like a very like Asian, the way that girls very frequently are not valued and the way that there can be violence. So, and I really needed to tell that story.
And it was done very beautifully and so well. It was very effective. And it's going to reach people in different ways. So,
so
as an Asian woman to watch it, it's of course it's going to hit all of the places. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so nice. It's just so nice. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask you about healing. The subject of healing seems to be very important to you. And as artists, we must dig very deep within ourselves to make our art authentic and true and to inspire us. But this can and often does mean digging into trauma and very painful past experiences. So my question is, do you have any practices you can share with us on how you keep your body and your mind healthy?
I have a daily meditation practice, which it's something that I do. I think it's really, really, really important. And I also practice shamanic healing, and that's something that I also do that I think is really, really important. And I also run. I do regular exercise. Yeah. Yeah. So those are the things that I do. I think that it's really important to, especially when you're in the role of a director, to go on to set balanced and centered. And I just really believe in doing that, because it's such high tension. And I think that, I've seen a lot of people on set where they go from set to set to set to set. And I just feel like, I've heard this term where, people, you say that everyone who works on set, we're the island of misfit toys, that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, that's absolutely true. So I just feel like there's a lot of people who maybe sometimes don't do the work. And so I just really think, and, when you're in a leadership role, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
You can't allow just negativity to spread on set. I just don't believe in that. So, yeah.
I agree. Is there some sort of practice as far as the mindset goes of writing? Do you have to put yourself in a place, or is there a time of day that's best for you? Do you have any kind of routines?
I think that I think for writing, it's really important. Just the sitting down and doing it is the most important part of it. It's just making yourself do it. And I think that, for me right now, I'm writing my next script, The Banquet, and I'm having a really good time with it. I'm writing about 3 to 4 hours a day. The rest of the time I'm taking care of my kid, because we're now, virtual school. I'm taking care of the house. And then for about 3 to 4 hours, I just sit and I set a timer, and I'll set it in 1 hour increments just so that I know, just so I feel like time has passed. Right? And what I do is I start writing first on the computer, and I just kind of write like scenes or like dialogue that I hear. Then I start to organize it a bit more and start to put it in more of like I've been doing this thing where I've been kind of almost writing it as a novel first, just so that I can get outside the headspace of writing it as a script. Because of the way I was trained to write scripts, I don't enjoy script writing in the same way. Because I kind of enjoy speaking in the voice of the character a little bit more. So I do that. So I've been doing that a bit more. And then I started to go into more kind of a beat sheet sort of format, but that very quickly expanded into outline. And then I start to do cards, right? Like I've started to put stuff on cards. Yeah. So then I'm putting everything on cards so that I can mix and match and put things all over the place. And then if I want to add stuff, I just write it and I add it, like I attach it to the card. So that's what I've been doing. And now I'm going back into typing it in now in outline form.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I asked you that.
Yeah. Like, so for me, I feel like, I think just the way I like to work, I want to have the freedom to feel like I can do whatever I want. And I don't want to feel like I have to sit in my script writing program and be like exterior, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because sometimes that just the format itself feels like a prison. So I just want to be loose in the beginning and then tighten up as I go. Right? Become, start more. I can't remember which it is. I think it's the right brain that's the creative and the left that's or is maybe it's the other way around.
I think it's the left. Oh gosh.
Yeah. But it's whichever it is, it's like I just want to allow the creative part of me to play the way that we used to play as kids, because when you were a kid, you just did it, right? Yeah, you just did it because it was fun, right? I see my kid, who is 11, and that's how she plays. She'll create. She just is nonstop creating. That's just who she is, and she just does it in whatever format she feels like doing it in. and she just won't stop creating, and it's really wonderful to see. Like, I learned from her, right? And so that's what I've tried to do, is put myself in that mindset of play, so that I'm not feeling
bogged down.
Yeah, like bogged down, or I think sometimes we can get scared. I think the other part in writing, you can get really lonely. It can be lonely, and so when you kind of just say, I'm going to allow myself the freedom to either write by hand today, or write in a little notebook, or write as the voice of the character, or you know what I mean, whatever it is that makes you feel free, that's what I like to do when I'm in the process. And I mean, I'm free to do that because like in a paid writer for hire gig, which I have done, where I've been in a writing room, it's very different, because you're working with other writers, and you're exploring together, and you're bouncing off of each other, and that's its own joy. And then because you are doing that, you take that, and you go and you run with it, and you just type everything up. And in some ways, that's weirdly easier, right? Yeah. But because this is mine, and I have the freedom to, and I do whatever I want, and I'm the only writer on it, these are the ways that I'm using to make it more fun for me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fun is the goal.
Fun is the goal. Fun is the goal, right? And sometimes we lose sight of that, I think, because of our inner critic, or because of our anxiety, or because of our ambition, and or the expectations that were put on us from our families. I think as Asians, we carry that. That's a really heavy burden that we all carry, right? So
absolutely. And it is almost the expectation that that society has put on them, that they have put on us.
Oh yeah. For sure. Because that's success, right? Like, success for us, the way that we see it, is like, to excel, and not just, do okay, but to like hyper excel. Otherwise we're failing, right? If you're not hyper excelling, you're failing.
You're not the best.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting, because we don't really have, again, to circle back to the beginning of this conversation, like that outlet of an open conversation. I mean, like with my parents, we never really chat about real serious issues.
Never.
Therapist.
Yeah, never. No. It's weirdly too intimate. And I think they don't have the capacity or the vocabulary, maybe, right? I think that's, vulnerability is a tough one, right? Vulnerability is, I mean, for anyone to admit to, I think. But I think particularly Asian culture, Asians are really proud. And that, being a parent in the Asian culture, there is such a distance, that pride is the thing that keeps you so distant, because they really believe in the role of parent. And it's such a thing. And so then you miss some of that. You miss that vulnerability, which is the stuff that I think helps you grow, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I have one last question here that might not be the last question if something else comes up. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what your hopes are for the future of Asian cinema in Canada.
I I hope that we can make more of it. I hope that we can have many, many, many Asian filmmaker voices. I hope that we can have many, many Asian stories. I hope that that we become part of the mainstream. That's what I hope, right? That it's not a thing, to have the one Asian film. That would be really nice. That would be amazing, and that we can all share.
Yeah, even in festivals like this, the FascinAsian Film Festival, which is so amazingly supportive and made to uplift Asian voices in Manitoba and in Canada. It's interesting to think about a future where maybe these festivals don't need to be made, that there's just enough celebration of it out there in the mainstream that it's just a festival, and then we can have hundreds and hundreds of films made by Asian folks in those festivals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyways, I'm happy that we have festivals like the festival.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, for sure. It's great to have them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, I just want to see if there are any questions. I'm going to open it up to any of the viewers who might have some questions here. Okay, so we have a question here. What are some movies or shows by Asian creators that you would recommend?
I mean, I just saw Parasite. That was like heartbreaking. Yeah.
That movie messed me up for a really long time.
Yeah. Such a good film. My God, it's so good. It's like masterpiece. And also just heartbreaking, right?
It's also jarring because it starts off in such a different tone and then just very abruptly moves to another, but seamlessly to the theater. And it starts off as a comedy and then turns into this terrifying, horrific film.
Yeah. I know the Koreans do that really well.
It's probably why I love them so
Yeah. But that was great. Yeah. And just watching Minari, that's I cried. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And saying goodbye to Kim's Convenience. Yeah, such a great show. Yeah.
And also just it just set the path on such a great, I'm not articulating it correctly or well, but it just really was a breakthrough for us. And I think such a huge staple of Asians in Canada.
I know, such a good show. Yeah. The Farewell, that's a really, oh my gosh, that's such a good movie.
Yes, The Farewell.
Yeah.
Have you seen Wexford Plaza?
Haven't seen that.
It's so good too.
Okay. So put that on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is like from the 90s, but this was one of my absolute favorite films of all time is Farewell, My Concubine.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's a really great one.
Okay. Concubine.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to share with us or say?
I'm just really, really pleased and honored to be screening, to have been screened for Asian Heritage Month. So I want to say thank you to you guys, to FascinAsian. I think that's wonderful to have had the opportunity to show the film, and it means a lot to me. Yeah. And then, And then I'm writing my next one. It's called The Banquet.
And can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's like more of a sort of a family dramedy, I would say, with a little bit of romance.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about a woman and her mother and her daughter, and they're sharing Korean Thanksgiving recipes and passing on that tradition, but with all kinds of, hilarity and conflict and
I love when you get Asian folks around food, like
yeah,
kind of content with Asian people and food.
yeah, it's true. We're fanatical about food.
Yeah. I have another question quickly here. I think it's a great one. Is there a movie that made you decide to become a filmmaker?
I can't say there was one film that made me decide to become a filmmaker. I think I just the first film that impacted me deeply was Dr. Zhivago. I saw that and I was I don't know 6 or 7 years old, and it just made me kind of see what films could do. And so for me, that was like, oh, okay, I want to do that. Yeah, but it wasn't a decision I made at the age of 6 or 7. It was just more knowing that's how films can touch you. I just think that's that's the power of filmmaking, right? That's the power of being able to make films. I think that's what makes them so special.
I agree. I've come to this thought too about, how there's so much magic that happens with films and being set. I always try to think about what the differences between theater and film are, and you can't ever compare what the feeling is of a live audience and performing it. And I'm talking about it as an actor, but that feeling of having a live audience, but then you also could never compare the feelings around doing something and not really knowing what magic elements are going to just appear.
Yeah, I feel like
Exciting.
Yeah, with theater, I mean, I love theater as well. I feel like with theater, it's the words that the actors say that paint the picture and create the world for you. And I think that's what's so special about theater. And I think that theater actors are really special. But the thing with film is that I'm thinking in terms of acting and actors, is that it's the close up. And it's if the camera loves you, if the lens loves you, as an actor, you're magical on screen. And that's, I think, the difference, because you don't have to be that kind of an actor for theater. You have to be a different kind of an actor. You have to be a different storyteller, but they're both magical. They're both.
Yes, I agree. I very much agree.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice about speaking with actors as a director and everything that, encompasses you and who you are as a person? Are there certain things that you really try to communicate or implore, or, another routine or practice that you do when you're working with actors? I mean, for me as a director, first and foremost, I really respect actors and I respect their craft. And I really, I just think it's so important to see actors as co-storytellers, who are with you. I think it's important to empower actors. When I talk to my actors, I always tell them what the shot is. I always tell them, this is the frame. I say this, or, I just think you're working together, and I want the actors to feel comfortable and to not feel like they're in the dark. I don't believe in directing in that way where you're taking power from people. I think that's mean. And from a spiritual perspective, I think it's really wrong. And
And I also think you get a better performance out of actors when you empower them. And I try to be honest with actors. And if I think something's not working, I try to just be honest about it, but do it in a way where I'm saying, let's come up with a solution. How can we make this work? You know?
I love that. I think that is the healthiest way to collaborate.
Yeah.
Nothing's worse than feeling like you're being lied to.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just having a director, I just, because like, I think directors who haven't taken an acting class will do this, where they're just micromanaging actors, and it's like, what? Then you're totally outside of your body and you're watching yourself. And I don't want actors to watch themselves, because I'm the one that is going to do that for you, so that you don't have to do that, right? I'll take that role and you can just be in the moment. I just think that that's so important. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good performance. And I really think it doesn't matter how fancy the shot is. If your actor isn't there, then it's, who cares?
Exactly. And knowledge is power, right? I feel like, on this end, when I'm being informed of what's happening, I feel like I'm in more of a control of the situation as well, which gives me more confidence to be able to do the work that I need to do.
Yeah, like then you can be free to do whatever it is you want. Just, because that I respect you, that I'm telling you what part of you is going to be on screen, so that you can just not worry about if your shoelace is untied. You know what I mean? Just like whatever it is that is worrying your mind, like I'm taking that off of you so that you can focus, right? And I just think, because I know not all directors work like that. I've had some disagreement with other directors, but I don't care. This is how I work, and it works best for me. And I just and then just knowing how the actor is, like if an actor is the kind of person who likes talking about the part, then I'll do it. If they're an actor who doesn't need to talk about it, then I'll just back off, right? Like I don't want to be that. I just think there's no point in being the director where it's like, well, it's all about me and let me, go on and on and on, right? Like know who the actor is, I think.
Yeah.
As much as possible. Try.
No, of course. And it's everybody has a different language, right? A different way of communicating. Yeah, and it's this idea of like you have to give trust to get trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I think, actors are such a key collaborator, and
we thought about the character a lot too, right? So
yeah, like the amount of homework that actors do for their characters, I think I'm always so impressed. And so that's what I would suggest to other directors.
I think that's really, really great advice. I would love to work with any director that does that.
Yeah, and have an arc. Understand what the character's arc is, so that if your actor asks you, "Where am I in the story?" you can tell them where you are in the story. Right, and where you start and where you end. Because then the actor doesn't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there have been so many takeaways from this. I'll be watching this interview again so that I could write more things down.
Oh, that's sweet.
Okay, so we're reaching the hour here, and I just want to personally thank you, Gloria. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and to get to know you through the research, and to have you in front of me. And it's been an honor to spend this time with you. And I want to thank FascinAsian for having this festival for us in Manitoba, so that we can bring beautiful, wonderful people from all over together. So thank you, Gloria, for all that you do.
Thank you.
thank you for everything you do for Canadian films. You know, I feel very confident about our future with women like you in the director, writer, producer chair.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been such an honor for me as well. So thank you.
Awesome. So I will just tell everyone, if you haven't seen Gloria's film, Queen of the Morning Calm, you can unlock it now. You can unlock it from now until tomorrow on the festival's watch platform. Once it is unlocked, you have a 48-hour window to watch it. Same for all the other films on the festival program. So basically you have 3 more days to watch everything. The link is below in the description. I'm going to give a very special thank you to ACTRA Manitoba for sponsoring this event, and to all of our amazing sponsors and partners for this festival. We have just a couple more live events tomorrow for you, starting off at 11 a.m. in the morning with Careers in Film, an info session with actor, host, and filmmaker Chelsea Mark, and Film Training Manitoba's Mauro Ferrito. Then the FascinAsian Manitoba Short Film Awards presentation at 2 p.m., which is going to be amazing. Right here on the FascinAsian Facebook page and YouTube channel. And a final thanks to all of you for watching. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you have a great night. Please be safe out there, wear your masks, and good night.